Hi friends, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Allie and I am the founder of Aquarian Soul, the original crystal-infused apothecary and author of Plant Magic for the Beginner Witch, and Herbs and Crystals DIY. My channel is all about herbs, crystals, and plant magic. Today, I will be showing you how to make Chuparosa oil. Chuparosa oil is a type of love oil. Chuparosa means hummingbird in Spanish. This oil will attract love like a hummingbird to a flower. Chuparosa is great if you want to rekindle a romance with somebody or attract somebody back, but of course, it can be used for any love working that you choose. Chuparosa is not a passionate type of oil, it is for strong, long-lasting romantic relationships. So if you want to learn how to make this oil, keep watching. For this recipe, I am using a mixture of fresh and dried herbs because I have access to a bunch of these fresh from my garden, but if you don't have access to fresh flowers or plants, it's totally fine to use the dried version or omit them if you can't find them. The first flower you're going to need is honeysuckle, and this is a Japanese honeysuckle, I believe, but you can use whatever kind you have growing near you, or you can buy honeysuckle dried online. It won't look quite as beautiful as this, but it'll work just the same. And I am using some pomegranate flowers, which just happened to be in season on my pomegranate tree when I filmed this video like a month ago. So these probably aren't available to you unless this is June when you are watching this, so you can leave these out, but pomegranates just have such a beautiful romantic energy to them, so I wanted to add them in. And you're also going to need some pink rosebuds. This recipe is more for romance than it is for passion or a lusty type of spell, so I wouldn't use red. I try and use pink, but if that's all you have, you can use red as well. And these pink roses are from my garden. You can use any shade of pink, it doesn't matter. It could be light pink, magenta, anything in between. You are also going to need some pink yarrow, and you could use common yarrow if you can find it growing in the wild near you. It's pretty abundant and easy to find, but pink just goes along with this oil, the energy, so if you have pink, go ahead and use that. Jasmine is the next flower that we'll be using. You can use any variety of jasmine, of course. You can buy the dried version online or in a local herb shop, but I just happen to have this growing right now in my backyard. I don't know, maybe star jasmine? I don't remember what variety it is, but there's quite a few out there and it smells amazing. And lastly, from this selection of flowers, we're going to use the Chuparosa flowers, the ones that originally inspired this recipe, and these are a little bit harder to find, but this was the inspiration for this particular oil. If you don't have any fresh roses, I'm showing you here just a selection of 3 roses that I grew in my backyard and one that I foraged in the local mountain areas here in San Diego. So you can use one type of rose, multiple type of roses. I just really felt called to use all of these because I had just recently dried them and they are ready to go and they just look so beautiful. These are Cecile Brunner roses. It's a huge climbing rose. It's a huge bush that I have in my backyard. Just stunning, and the smell is amazing, and these are the same ones I used for the rose jelly and other recipes from the last video. Here are the dried version of the garden roses I showed you a minute ago. I'm just basically showing you these because I think they're so beautiful, but of course, if you just have access to one type of rose, that's all you need. I just make things overcomplicated, and I just feel like going out and finding the ingredient makes it that much more powerful, but that's just me. If you can make something with 3 ingredients and that brings you a lot of energy and power and all your intention is in that, all the more power to you. This is just how I like to do things, so you don't need to add all 3 of these types of roses. I'm just showing them to you. And next you're going to need passion flower. I wouldn't suggest using fresh only because it has such a high water content. I dried these passion flower and it only takes a couple of days, maybe a week for them to be fully dry, but if you wanted to just wilt them down, you can use those also. And you're also going to need some hibiscus, and this will add a beautiful pinky, purpley color to your oil. If you wanted to grind it up, the powder will color your oil a little bit and make it a really, really beautiful color. But you don't have to do that. You can add your intention into this, just adding them in whole. Wild cherry bark is another ingredient that you will need, and it doesn't come from the cherry tree that you're thinking of that we eat from the grocery store. It's more commonly related to something called a choke cherry. Vanilla bean is preferable for this recipe if you can find it. Otherwise, you can also use a little bit of vanilla bean paste, vanilla bean powder, or of course, the more common vanilla bean extract. Using just a little bit of alcohol won't hurt your oil. And lastly, you're going to need a little bit of frankincense resin. I like to add frankincense to a lot of my oils and powders. It just adds that little extra magical oomph, that little extra bit of potency in any of your work. And the crystal that we'll be using for this oil, you guys know I love to use crystals, is going to be morganite. This is a lesser known crystal, but it is hands down, one of my favorite love crystals. But of course, if you can't find this, you can use rose quartz or garnet or something along those lines. And as always, you're going to start off by cleansing your space, your ingredients, your whole working area, including your bottle, of course, with some incense. And I'm just using some honeysuckle incense, but you can use rose, dragon's blood, jasmine, any type of love incense that evokes feelings of love, passion, romance, or of course you can burn some dried herbs on a charcoal disc if that's preferable. But it was pretty hot when I was filming this, and it's not so fun burning things on a charcoal disc and getting your room all smoky. Plus, one time I set off the fire alarm and the fire department had to come. It was pretty embarrassing. So nowadays, I like to use incense to cleanse my stuff, but of course, do whatever works for you and what you find preferable. The first thing I'm adding, of course, is going to be the Chuparosa flowers. And I mentioned this earlier that they're a little bit hard to find, and Chuparosa oil doesn't actually have it in the recipe. Like if you look up other brands or those little conjure oils you can get in a Botanica, none of those, well, first of all, they don't typically list the ingredients, but if you look online, there's no mention of Chuparosa oil in any of the ingredients in any recipe I could find. But Chuparosa flowers are desert wildflowers that are native to the American Southwest, most typically in California and Arizona. Chuparosa flowers have a bright reddish orange flower, and I picked these last year on a day trip I took out to Anza Borrego. It was so much fun. And when you dry them, they turn a really deep red color. And these might be pretty difficult to find. I know sometimes I add ingredients that aren't so typical, but to me, this was just the entire inspiration for this oil. So I added them, and I think I've seen just a couple of Etsy sellers that actually sell these. They probably live in the desert and have easy access to them, so you can try looking there, but you don't have to add it in at all. It was just honestly the inspiration for this oil, and if you can't find these, omit them. It's totally okay. Your oil will work just as well. As you can see, I'm adding in all of the fresh flowers, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I just wanted to reiterate it again that if you're going to use a lot of fresh flowers, and I think in this recipe I'm using pretty much 50%, if not more, of fresh ingredients, you're going to want to keep a very close eye on this oil. You're going to want to make sure that the oil covers all the herbs, that there's no space for any oxygen to reach the flowers. And some of these have a little bit more water content, like the pomegranate flowers and the passion flower if you're using that fresh. So just keep an eye on it because it could tend to rot, or you could see like a cloudy sort of whitish stuff forming along the bottom of the bottle with time. So what you could do is add these in and strain them after maybe 2 weeks. But if you think that everything's looking good after 2 weeks, of course you can leave it on the full moon cycle, the 4 weeks that I typically recommend you leave your oils in for. But if you're using all dried, I honestly never strain my oils. I like the look of them floating in the bottle, but if you want to strain yours, go ahead. I like to just look at the herbs floating in my bottle, so do whatever feels good to you. You know, anytime somebody asks a question, I like to answer with my own personal experience, but of course, my number one recommendation is, unless it's like a food hazard thing or a safety hazard type of thing, you know, obviously with knowing how to ingest herbs or whether they're safe for the skin, I say leave it up to your intuition, whatever feels right to you. Of course, you're free to ask me questions, but always go with your gut. Go with what feels good to you. And of course, while you're adding in your ingredients, you're wanting to enchant them by laying your hands over them like you've been seeing me do during this video, or you can draw a pentagram or a heart, or speak some words aloud, or sometimes when there's smaller items like this, like the frankincense, I sort of just like to shake it a little bit in my hand or shake it in the bottle, putting in that intention before I add it into the main bottle. And this is what it looks like before we add in the oil. This is my favorite part of every video, are these close-up shots. I love looking at all the herbs and flowers and spices just floating around in that bottle. It's my favorite thing. I love making oils. This is my hands down my favorite thing to make out of any witchy craft type of thing. And here I'm adding in the oil. I think I use sunflower or almond, but I feel like almond has more of a romantic vibe to it. Sunflower is more for like creativity, joy, more uplifting type of oils. But in reality, you could use canola oil. I know some people like to do that. I personally don't, just because I like something that's more good for your skin. But any plant-based oil that you want to use, olive oil, you can go ahead and use that. But these lighter colored oils really let you see the flowers floating around there. And then, you know, they have a lighter scent. So whatever vanilla bean and other scented flowers, it'll take on that smell. And of course, you can add in essential oils, but I typically like to use purely flowers and herbs. But if you have some lavender, some rose, jasmine essential oils, you can add 4 to 6 drops of each into this and it'll smell amazing. And as I mentioned, you can use this for rekindling a romance, whether it's within an existing relationship or maybe somebody that you broke up with or somebody you just want to reconnect with. That's specifically what this is made for, and it's made for long-lasting romantic love, not just passion or a quick fling. This is if you're looking for a serious relationship. And you can use this to anoint your candles. You can use it on yourself before you go on a date or something, or before you see a person. You can anoint your temples, your wrists, as if any type of perfume, but a magical perfume. You could also put it on poppets, sachets, any type of spell work you can use this for. And to charge this working, I'm just going to burn a pink candle next to it, or if you're using something with a flat top or a lid like a jar, you can burn the candle right on top. Just let the candle burn all the way down, and then set your oil to the side for 4 to 6 weeks to fully infuse, and then it's ready to use. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know down below how you like this video, if you have any questions or comments or any suggestions for future videos you guys would like to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!